There we go. All right. All right, it's time. Or isn't it? Yeah, it is. Hey everybody, it's I, your pal, Erratic Jimmy. We're doing the fall sun again. Although I should say, since it's a stream, I should probably do a bit more banter. I had a friend give me some feedback. She's not a fan of the second apocalypse or anything, but she watched the stream to be supportive and she was like, I don't really get the point. They're all gonna hear you read it later in the video. Uh, what's the point of having them hear you reading it again? And I was like, well, it's not just that. It's about the personality and the banter. She's like, well, you didn't do anything. So I'm going to try to make a better attempt this time. So in between reading passages of this, I'll try to say a bit more instead of just doing the Kevin from Mission Hill bling blong as I cut the audio, which I should get going. Although I guess I could give Victor another minute to show up. I'm just kidding. I don't expect him to be here. You don't have to be here every night, buddy. Although, I guess since I just started, maybe. Oh, I should give it a minute. Yeah, it's 11 o'clock on a Friday. I imagine a lot of you are probably out having lives, all right? But some of us are Seventh day Adventists, okay? And we don't go out on Friday because we're going to church on the right day, which is Saturday. No, I'm just kidding. All right. Oh, we got somebody. That's good enough. How's it going, one person? Feel free to sound out and chat, people. It's all good. I may not react straight away. I've got this computer muted, or at least if I were smart. But I'll definitely read it in between passages. Let's give it a shot. And recording. And I think it'd probably be a great idea to just like have both windows half screened instead of just going back between, adding a second to that process. Excellent. Sounds looking good. Testing. Yeah. All right. Okay. I remember exactly where we were. Oh, except I didn't put the bookmark in the right spot. Haha. Okay, I know we were at like, no, my friend, I came to this monstrosity, I think. See what happened. No, no. He began berating himself. Horrifying. He had to. Okay, yeah, that was the last thing I remember saying. He lied because he had to. Yeah, there we go. Drink some water. You guys, the stream should be this audio on the laptop. And then the horrible mouth sounds of me drinking water should only be apparent on the final audio track, which only I'm going to hear to my great enjoyment. All right. Turturga stood watching him, his fulsome lips hanging open in hesitation. And Shao Narnra rejoiced, knowing even the mighty hero mage had his doubts. That the Mengeka could be seduced was no surprise, for they had always placed knowledge before honor. But Ketangira, the most famed of the Siku, for that matter, how could any non-man enter into a pack? For that matter, how could any non-man enter into a pact with Nkoroi? Unless... Shao Narnra cackled, feeling a new deliberation sop the wildness from his bones. Horrifying, isn't it, Turturga? Nope, that's not it. Horrifying, isn't it? Turturga, hero of the Umarau, disciple of no Shane Rao, to think that everything you've believed for naught. A whole life expended, toiling, condemning, murdering, all in the name of misapprehension. the gaze of an old and undefeated chieftain. What has become of you, old friend? Do that a little louder. What has become of you, old friend? That's a good place to cut. Yeah, I was listening back to my old cut of this, and there's a really awkward pause in the middle of that paragraph, and you can really tell that's where I stopped recording for one night and started recording at a different night. It's like that the Megega could be seduced was a surprise, for they'd always placed knowledge before honor. But Gira, the most famed of the Siku, for that matter, it's pretty funny actually. Yeah, again, I didn't think that a lot of people would be watching or listening rather to it. So even I was not like listening back to it that carefully to see how good it was. But this time I am. Rest assured. Um, yeah. Oh, I showed this off on the subreddit, but a very nice friend of mine made me this excellent R. Scott Baker bookmark. So thank you to them. Quite nice. I'm using it now on stream. Not that they're gonna watch this. But here we go. Da. Sheon Narnra had expected many things from this visit. Sheon Narnra had expected many things from this visit, but never that it would become so quaint. Yes, he said on a sigh. You did know me before. You knew many of us. You knew how fractious we were. Sorry. You did know me before. You knew many of us. You knew how fractious we were, how given to mercenary pursuits, all the mannish flaws that you so honk used to evidence your superiority. You remember when gold was all that you needed to induce treason? I'm actually going to cut there because there is an end note here, which I never noticed before this end note. You did know me before. You knew many of us. End note number 10. I'm going to look that one up because I'm actually interested to know what that's in reference to. End note number 10 reads, the Sohonk, which was by far the largest of the tutelage schools, could boast only some 50 sorcerers of rank at this time. The Mengeka, it could be assumed, possessed no more than 30. Okay. Thank you for that nice clarification. I guess then we can know very specifically when Sheo Narnra says to Taturga, you knew many of us. He's probably talking about, like, I don't know, 8 or 9 people, probably. Many out of 30? Maybe 15. Maybe then he would have said, you knew half of us. Anyway, keep it going with the recording. And drink water. Oh yeah, I really like this passage. He raised a hectoring fist, one royal Umeri to another. And now you hear the whispers, the rumors. He drew his hand out to embellish the sarcasm. Your torturers shake, so deep they must reach. He stepped forward as he spoke, coming to a halt directly before the hero mage and his legendary wrath. Something in the man's height and proportion made him think of the non-man heroes and how they never ceased growing. Possessed, you tell yourselves. Possessed! We are different because we are no longer ourselves. You counsel the All-King to crack our seal, destroy us and all that we have toiled to achieve. Our voices are polluted, unclean. He threw his hand back in. He threw his back in feel laughter, cackled in spite and glee. So tell me, if we are possessed, who is our new owner? The Techne, the Archdemosohonku said, with grim confidence. The Mengeka have been enslaved. You have been enslaved. Hmm. Yeah, I've heard some wild theories about like that in particular. Uh, I don't know how much stock I would put into any of them, but that like you know the forerunners that created the Inkoroi were spurred on by a reality bending, time traveling Ajokli, or the inverse fire is being manipulated by a time traveling demon of some kind, or something, that it's all one grand conspiracy. And that would be interesting. Although I personally think that it's more interesting if the Inkoroi are their own entity on their own separate mission, and they haven't been like hoodwinked into this uh, by another inside character. Although who knows? Or I should say outside character. Haha. Um, mhm. And yeah, it's sort of a semantic debate here. It's like, are you? I'm not literally possessed by a demon, but the thing I saw was so compelling that now I'm possessed by the memory of it. Uh, you know, it seems like Sheo Narnra is really different. We only get his perspective post looking into the inverse fire, but it seems like at least Turturga thought they used to be friends, or there used to be some kind of rapport between the two of them that there no longer is. Um, or maybe that was all a ruse, and Sheo Narnra was always playing him and he never actually liked him. Again, if you got ideas, two people, sound out. Da, 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 da. Hmm. Sheo Narnra blinked. Of course the fool was unmoved. Of course he had his reasons. No matter. This was an indulgence, arguing like this, availing reason. He warred with his expression, something between a, he warred with his expression, something between a grimace and a grin. Yes, but who is our new master? A peculiar weariness haunted Turturga as he shook his maned head, one not so much of as four. Feel, something whispered from his gaze. A lunatic god, perhaps. The hells that you think you see. Something, something adulterate, foul, something that craves feasting, that hungers with an intensity that can bend the very ground. Yeah, so that passage in particular makes me wonder a lot, because like it sounds like he's describing an entity from the outside, like a powerful outside entity that can bend the very ground with its gods make real, right? So he's talking about that as if it's like not an as if it's a novel thing, if it's as if it's not like a known quantity, or if it's not like a expected part of their cosmology of the gods or whatever, as it is seems to be in the times of the second apocalypse. um so I wonder if this story, The False Sun, maybe it takes place pre the influence of certain gods, or maybe not. Maybe I'm just picking up on nothing there. Who knows? Orang had stood silent during this time, gazing down at the two bickering men. After the intimacies that they had shared, it seemed Shao Narnra could sense the pulse of his passion, lust in the lazy tumescence of his member, impatience in the incline of his shield-long head, hatred in the flicker of membranes. Hatred in the flicker of membranes. Does that not trouble you? The hero mage pressed. That you have but one eye? Tedious, tedious, tedious. Why, Turturga? Shao Nanra implored. Why have you come here? He shook his head, arguing with the floor. Did you hope to show me my folly? And it all seemed like a pantomime, this incontinence of voice and expression. For beneath, he knew exactly what he needed to do. He could feel it, the certainty of snakes coiled in the darkness. The confidence of things that neither run nor sleep. There's no folly in what I do. I assure you, I know, I have seen. He jerked his face back, squinting and scowling. What are your reasons compared to this? Your guesses? Your rumors of a dead age? Your rumors of a dead age? But what, Shao Narnra? What is it that you have seen? What is it you have seen? Your damnation or your goad? What's up, Victor? Well, coming back from hell is changing. Yeah, probably. Or if you're like a caveman. No, well, not. If you're like an ancient Greek person and someone put an Oculus 2 on your head and was like, this is real. You're in hell now. You might believe that. Who knows? I wonder what Ark was like when it worked. Maybe the only example we could think of was an analogy, by the way. Yeah, well, that's a good example. Maybe he was only just trying to, since they don't know anything about the Techne or what it did or what it could do, the next logical thing is to compare it to a god. Yeah, that's a reasonable explanation, Victor. I like that. Yeah, well, the other part here, your damnation or your goad, right? Like that's the line that I think of when people are presenting the theory that like this is all a conspiracy, that like it's all a setup. Arkfall was a setup. The whole mission was like, a Jockey setting them up to come over here for whatever reason, to set things in motion because they had to happen, which meant that they were always going to happen anyway. So no one had to set them up. Yeah. Anywho, let's keep going. We get into a good part. I'm going to drink more water preemptively. Did you hope to strike a bargain? Shao Narnra exclaimed. Shao Narnra exclaimed, spinning to face the hero mage. Or did you come here to cow me, to strut, and boast, and discourse, thinking that the throat of my design might choke on the bone of your glorious presence? The hero mage had stalked him in a curious, distanced way, careful to move at tangents that would keep him facing both his antagonists, Manish and Inkoroi. His manner, which had seemed lazy with arrogance but a moment earlier, had become wary, expectant. Turturga, did you come here? He's not Turturga. I made that mistake a couple times in the first one. Turturga, did you come here to kill? For the first time, the man surprised him. Of course I did. Page break. Oh. Yeah, a lot of people have been talking about the R. Scott Baker page break, and I'm into it too. I'm not a tattoo getting person, but if you are, that's a good one. Consider the R. Scott Baker page break, perhaps on the wrist. Again, I'm too much of a sissy baby to get a tattoo. I don't even like to get the flu shot. It hurts too much. But if you like tattoos, Free idea. You got it from Erratic Jimmy. That's what you could tell people. Good story. All right. This is a Ked and Gira scene, which I did not read on the last recording. 6 days. 6 days, Ked and Gira, the most famed of the Siku, the most feared and hated, stands upon the high threshold, the arcane bass of his voice climbing from the pores of all that could be seen, his arms outstretched, a myriad of Methesis pins drawn into a circle of sparkling white before him, a disk of needles endlessly pricking the fractal intricacies. That almost had it in one take. No. This is one sentence. His arms outstretched, a myriad of Methesis pins drawn into a circle, sparkling white before him, a disk of needles endlessly pricking the fractal. Just drink water. A long sentence here, folks. This whole paragraph's one. 6 days, Ketangira, the most famed of the Siku, the most feared and hated, stands upon the high threshold, the arcane bass of his voice climbing from the pores of all that could be seen, his arms outstretched, a myriad of Methesis pins drawn into a circle sparkling white before him, a disk of needles, endlessly pricking the fractal intricacies of the barricades. Got it. There we go. Yeah, it's if you listen to my glossary videos, you can hear like the ones that I've been able to read in one take and didn't have to like do a couple times. I'm ending on a happier note. For whatever reason that entry gets a positive ending, and then the ones that took me a long time to read, it ends with like a grim tone because I'm mad at that one for how many times I had to read it. Here we go. Yeah. Ketangira knocks down the barricades with the Methesis pin because it's so teeny tiny it can't be repelled off the barricades. The barricades are core defying, which is something I actually didn't know about them until I guess I probably read it the first time and then forgot it until I was doing the video for Glossary B. And that's weird that that's possible. Presumably, you would use a magic spell to make them core defying, but then the core destroys all magic. So how's that work? Or if like the core are just banded in magic paradoxes, right? So um, it's maybe there's some kind of magic paradox solving thing in the barricades that resolves that. Who knows? Drink water before, so I don't have to do it in the middle. And Sheonarnra, the Balancer's son, who had risen to become the Archdemu Mengaku, master of the cunning school, felt a different fear hiss through the anxious hum of his schemes. He retreated, as if in disgust, took 4 steps, steeling himself against the impulse to cringe, because at any instant, any heartbeat, he could find himself cut, or bludgeoned, or blasted from this world, and kill me, he heard himself say, his tone far from manly. The hero mage laughed his famed laugh, the one that had inspired, the one that the one that inspired, the one that had inspired, gosh, the one that had inspired so many lays. With his beard and wolfskin cloak, he looked both savage and indomitable, every bit as elemental as the legends painted him. With his stain drawn and tinctured in a manner no man or non-man had ever seen, he seemed outrageous with power. No, my friend, he said, letting his gaze stray to the Incoroi, hulking and inhuman. I have come to kill this obscenity. Hmm. Yeah, I mean, I was talking once to yeah, Second Apocalypse Reddit legend Weenie Poo about this very part here. That like Turturga keeps calling him friend. He's like there to save him. He thinks he's gonna save Sheo Narnra from Orang or something, which is very silly because Sheo Narnra is head over heels in love for Orang and doesn't want to be saved at all. Uh, I I wonder, has this ever been said? Maybe Turturga and Sheo Narnra had a thing, right, long ago. Who knows? Yeah, I'm just saying, putting it out there. It is like an analogy for ancient Greece, right? Who knows what they're getting up to? Sound out in chat if you like that idea. Uh, sorry. Um, let's see here. Yeah, this is actually my favorite paragraph of the story, so I'm gonna try to do a good job. A new age was dawning. Since the first father, men had always spoken to command the ground. Since the shamans, they had called, and reality had answered. A brother, a deceiver, an assassin. But there was another way, one without the treacherous hooks of meaning, one built up out of the granules of existence, the way termites raise their multiform wattle. A power that could be crafted and shaped, that could be applied to its own proliferation, and so accelerate, radiating out against the span of need and desire. A power that could uproot cities and hurl them across the void. A power that could be crafted and shaped, that could be applied to its own proliferation, and so accelerate, radiating out across the span of need and desire. A power that could uproot cities and hurl them across the void. The Techne. Mechanism. Only mechanism could save their voices. Victor saying, maybe not friend, but a respected colleague gone astray. I always thought of the ancient North as Sumerian Vikings. Yeah, I guess you're probably more right about that. Um, I just kind of think about uh, as both the ancient Greek and the ancient Romans as like the lost cities of antiquity, Athens and Rome or whatever. But I think that you're probably right. That's just as apt of a comparison. Um, yeah, I friends or colleagues, there's only 50 mages about between the Sohonk and the Mengeka at this point, so they're probably all pretty familiar with each other. Even during the second, the times of the second apocalypse, um, the different mages had like they had the knowledge of at least to like be able to name the more famous mages in the other schools that they obviously never met before. Like they were aware of what some of the higher ranking um, Kisharim were, or what the higher ranking members of the Scarlet Spires were. I mean, they're all probably minor celebrities in their own right. Um, and when I was saying ancient Greece, I was just making a gay sex joke, to be clear. I'm not. I'm also not going to use that on them. Weren't they all in the same small city? Well, the Sohonker from Soglish, and I guess the Mangeka are from there too. That's like capital city of the Umeri Empire. Although they the Mangeka pack up and move to Viri before I think long before Sheo Narnra was the Archmage, because he's like talking to Ketangira about how his his master and his master's master and his master's master's master, Darth Plagueis, was like trying to bring down the barricades 300 years ago, and he couldn't do it. So I think that the Mangeka, they probably maintain a strong presence um, in the empires of the ancient North. But that is probably more of like an espionage or a control thing, perhaps. Um, Who knows? Again, like Sheonanro didn't. They didn't like show him Area 51 until he became the Archmage. So I don't know how many people are in on this at the end of the day. Um, who knows? It's almost it's sort of like the school of the Mangeka is just like where Ken Gira draws his resources of powerful mages from. Probably. Uh, I think I just said something true. Maybe we'll see. All right. Drink water. What's the next part? Travis Pudding. Perhaps it is fitting, Turturga said to the glistening Incoroi, advancing a step. Turturga said to the glistening Incoroi, advancing a step. Perhaps this is your doom, to die here on the grave of Viri. Wheezing silence. Sheonanra, Orang finally said. I tire of this. Patience, my brother, the Mangeka Archdeme replied. The Mangekan Archdeme replied, drawing the Incoroi back by the forearm, pressing him to the perimeter of the grand room. It would happen soon. Brother, the hero mage cried, his voice cracked with what seemed genuine dismay, pained incredulity. You call this monstrosity brother? I don't think that's the right cadence. You call this monstrosity brother? Only now was it dawning on the fool, the intimacy of their pact, the truth of their holy consort. Only now, Sheonarra realized, could he see how profoundly damnation had conjoined them. Man, non-man, Incoroi. Victor says, maybe only the inner circle had access to the true knowledge until the barricades were defeated and they relocated en masse to the Ark. Yeah, well, that's a good point. I guess they probably don't need them all up there to just, scratch their heads and stare at the barricades and shrug their shoulders. I hadn't thought about that. Is this the last little? No, there's 2 more. 3 more Ken Gira passages. "6 days, until his voice dwindled into a rasp, until blood fell from his nose, tracing the branches of his grimace. 6 days singing." Hey, that one was short. I got that in one take. Everybody, here we go. I'm just going to keep on going. Oh, shit. What was that? Sorry, I've got another computer apparently turned on somewhere. Hopefully that'll just not happen again. I'm not going to look at this. Turturga strode toward him, to the center of the Asina, to the point where all the glittering fires overlapped. Sheonarra resisted the urge to raise his hands in warding. He understood why the bards called him the bull in their songs, the way he lowered his face to glare through his brows, how he puffed out his chest, huffed fury through his flared nose, how he trembled for rage. Turturga was the very embodiment of the Wurg, a true long-boned son of Umarau. Turturga was the very embodiment of the Wurg, a true long-boned son of Umarau. He used all the tools the gods bequeathed him, including his famed stature. He always came close. Eventually. Always loomed, carrying the stink of the garlic they so prized in Zoglish. Vanity. Nothing makes men more predictable. You will answer for this, Sheonanra. Wait, I don't think the cadence of that is correct. You will answer for this, Sheonanra. The Archdemu Mengaku turned his back on the hero. The Archdemu Mengaku turned his back on the hero mage for a third and final time. He glanced at Orang, who fairly hunched over his famished loins, and in Koroi battle stance. You will face me, feel! Very loud. He nodded to the black shining eyes. Face me! Turturga thundered, his voice booming so raw that spiders seemed to scuttle across Sheonanra's spine and back. Need I show you the fact of your damnation? Nah. I had more water. Need I show you the fact of your damnation? A sorcerous word sizzled across the corners of everything. Orang's eyes flared crimson. Face me or A crack of wood and stone, beam and joist. Sheonanra whirled just in time to see it happen, the floor dropping, the brushed rug sucked down, folding into ravines about the falling hero mage, the tripods tipping outward, fires bursting into sparks, the whole slipping into the plummet, a great white iris dropping into the deeper stages of gloom. Gone. Okay, that passage reads a little bit different. Again, I listened to the parts that I'm gonna read just like earlier in the day before I know I'm gonna reread them to see what I did well and what I did poorly and try to replicate and undo. And I'm just noticing now that like between like gone, the whole center of the chamber gone is how that reads in that one without this here. And I hadn't considered that. It sounds really natural. I guess I wasn't like looking at the story when I was listening to it or anything. Right. Sheonanra finds the non-man thus, sprawled unconscious before the barricades. Something just made a loud noise. Sheonanra finds the non-man thus, sprawled unconscious before the barricades, or what remains of them. He kneels at his side, lays fingers on his cheek. Warm. He looks to the shattered portal, to the hanging plates, the mangle of the stain. His immobility shocks him as much as his terror shames. He has always been proud with power, Sheonanra. He has always been proud with power, Sheonanra, knowing that even the Kuya wonder at his subtlety. But now he is simply a man, a lowly mortal, and he can smell his own stink taint the aura of burning. The true sun is rising behind him. The shadow of the threshold arcs across the soaring cylinder of gold. He sees his frail silhouette hunched atop it, and he watches it descend, as inexorable as the rising dawn, sinking into the maw of the broken barricades. He shivers uncontrollably. Only when the sun has drawn even to his height, when the first light draws his outline into the barricades within, does he stand upon the spine of his own shadow. How could mere knowledge command such horror, he will see for himself. Yeah, I mean, these Ket and Gira flashback scenes are really cool. Too bad I didn't just include them the first time. Sorry. I live in an apartment. My upstairs neighbors have my upstairs neighbors have like 3 dogs. So hopefully it's not going to sound like dogs running all over this recording. Yeah, I think I will probably, I will not reach the end of the story, which is too bad because there's only like a page of it before when I planned to stop. So I guess I'm just going to go late. We're burning the midnight oil, folks, which I think is a euphemism for something. Here we go. Wait, I'm going to start the recording or else this is really, we're just doing this for fun. All right. The whole center of the chamber gone. It was not for nothing the Mengeka had come here. It was not for nothing they had raised no Garal upon the ruins of ancient Viri. Intent on plundering the dead mansion, they took the vast pit they had discovered, the Veridic Well, as the axle of their construction, and so unknowingly created the one trap that could destroy the famed Turturga. All right, that's the paragraph that I really have a problem with, that I'm always like joking about to people who know a lot about this. Like that the one trap that could defeat the famed Turturga was essentially a Burmese tiger trap. The one trap that could defeat him was a really deep hole in the ground that he didn't think he was going to step into. It's very silly to me. It's like the one trap that could defeat Achilles was like a rabbit snare. They just had to rope him up into a tree and get him that way. It's silly, especially as Sheon Arma's like his rumored grace. It's like this guy has the unerring grace, but he can be taken down by a hole in the floor. It makes me wonder if there's something weird about the gods, the outside. The non-men seem to think they can get away from them by going underground. That's probably not true, but maybe there's something there. There's some weird thing going on with the gods and being underground and the sky, and it's not clear. It apparently some kind of overgeneralization is being, kind of misunderstanding is happening about the gods and what their capability